7 o'clock in the morning. Time to go home. This was a legal rave, licensed by the local authority, where the £20 tickets promised no illegal substances. But that's impossible. Ecstasy, which is illegal, fuels the rave scene, and we wanted to flush out the drug dealers and the big suppliers. So we got down to basics. With an E for ecstasy in the title, we set up shop and advertised a rave in print and on radio.
Basic Productions are building the rave arena to rival all others. Put the heat back in the scene with Basic, to be held in Leeds.
Not that we really wanted to run a rave, but because we wanted to see who would want to supply the E.
Best security, ticket outlets,
and it worked.
DJs, sound and light, with
In Holland, a step beyond the dealers to the producers and the wholesalers who dominate the European market.
This is John. This is Mr. Rogers.
Hello. These men were keen to sell us 100,000 tablets, worth £2 million at raves back home. Adding more fuel to the fastest growing and arguably the most worrying drug scene in Britain today. Indeed, one ecstasy tablet can kill.
And how much was she given?
1 tablet.
With what result?
Well, it was devastating. If you could have seen just what it did to her body, it was unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
Destroyed her.
It
All the organs in her body.
Yeah, every organ destroyed. She bled from every outlet. Her body swelled up to at least 3 times its size. It looked as if you put a pin to her that she would burst. She never opened her eyes. She was on a life support machine, kidney machine. I've never seen so many tubes on one person in all my life. It was devastating to sit and watch. Children today should see something like that. They perhaps wouldn't take it then.
Claire Layton was just 16, and she was killed by an ecstasy tab, either available as a capsule or as a tablet, just like the ones we bought for around £20. Ecstasy is based on a chemical called MDMA, which has the effect of causing the body to abandon its natural limits, to become hyperactive. And that's why E devotees can dance all night.
There's no doubt they enjoy themselves, as they're entitled to, but they don't seem too bothered about the risks. And the risks are real, not just the invention of middle-aged killjoys. Ecstasy, like heroin, is an illegal Class A drug. Raves and ecstasy combine into one culture, where fairground rides are almost obligatory. Of course, not everyone here takes E, but those that do say these rides get E into the system much more quickly. Vicks Vapor Rub is part of the culture too, although it's on sale at double the shop price. Vicks heightens the buzz, they say, especially if it's smeared inside a face mask. E devotees also know the drug tightens the jaw muscles, so they suck dummies and chew gum. The E takers tell you that to appreciate all this, you have to be high. That's what, they say, gives the noise, the lights, the whistling and the frenzy even greater effect. To the parents, it's a world apart. Indeed, the night Claire Layton went out, her parents felt reassured by what they were told. It was a fatal misunderstanding.
I collected her from work, brought her home, she went upstairs, got out of a shower, got changed, come down, she gave me a kiss. They collected her from the bottom of our drawer, didn't they? Me and my wife went down the drawer and they said, oh, you look after her, won't you? And they said, oh, don't worry, Mr. Layton, we'll look after her for you. You don't drink, you know what I mean? I thought, well, that's half the battle.
But it's not. Instead, E-fans use carbonated soft drinks to enhance the effect and mineral water to combat dehydration. Surveillance film shot in the ladies' restroom at a rave shows the mineral water much in evidence. In 9 hours of surveillance, filmed with police cooperation, drugs dominate the conversation and the action. The blonde girl takes her E-tab out of a cigarette packet. The taste is foul, but she hopes the feeling will be fine. On the dance floor, Special K, a new and even more dangerous drug than ecstasy, is also on offer. This girl has just bought some.
That's not Special K. Really hallucinogenic. Little capsules, aren't they? They make you really...
The girl on the left has just taken her E-tablet. The girl to her right will now pop hers. There are perhaps 500,000 users of ecstasy in Britain today. One girl who popped her tab earlier returns. It seems to be working. So it's back to the dance floor to let the music take over.
The users are looking forward to a pleasant experience, a high, an enjoyable rave. However, they are running a risk. The people who are taken ill are really ill. They're in an intensive care unit. They have pipes and tubes in many parts of them, and people are fighting for their lives. Their parents can't talk to them, and they can't talk to their parents. And at that stage, you often don't know whether they're going to recover or not. It's a very hard fight to bring some of these people back into life.
Betty and Graham Brown mourn a son, aged 18, who took just one tablet.
It's not easy to describe, but at one point I asked the nurse if he could hear what we were saying. And she said, when people are in a coma, the last thing to go is the hearing. And we were talking to him, and my daughter said, look, Mum, he's crying. And tears were coming out the corner of his eyes.
As if to say, we're sorry, Mum. I'm sorry, Mum. I'm sorry, Dad.
And a few seconds later, he died.
Gwen Hutchinson's son also died, another victim of ecstasy.
Well, it's hard to define what he did with what he was. I mean, I can remember nothing bad about him. Nothing at all. He was a lovely boy, and I loved him, and he loved me, and he loved all his family. He loved all his friends, too, and helped them all he could. And I miss him very much. In fact, we all do. It's terrible to think that he's gone. He ain't going to open the door anymore.
But her story is different. Her son was an ecstasy dealer, one of the biggest ever exposed.
This was the first major seizure of ecstasy in the country. Police found 100,000 tablets concealed in 3 jerrycans and 2 holdalls in the boot of the wrecked hire car. They'd been smuggled in by sea.
They'd been brought in by Jonathan Hutchinson, who beached the boat here after a bad crossing from Holland. Jonathan and 2 brothers were taking the E to the London dealers they were supplying, but amazingly, Jonathan took an E himself before he drove. 4 of Mrs. Hutchinson's 5 sons. Jonathan is dead, Dan is in jail, and so is William. So Sam agreed to help us expose the men who sold them the drugs in Holland.
John started with cannabis, yeah, and then as he progressed, got some money behind him, he went on to the more exclusive, harder drugs.
What sort of money are we talking about?
Oh, hundreds of thousands of pounds.
And what quantities?
With ecstasy, 30,000 to 100,000 tablets, depending on how he was going to ship it.
Sam says he was not involved in drugs himself. He strongly disapproves. But he did visit Jonathan in Holland and knows his way round. He wanted to help us set up the Dutch wholesalers and producers and then in London to reveal the dealers who bought from his brother and then supplied the rays.
I've never been to a party, and I've been to over 100 now, where alcohol has been present. And of course the youngsters then will tell you, we don't drink, so we pop 2 tablets instead. And they believe they're safe taking ecstasy as opposed to drinking beer, spirits or whatever. So the separation between the two is nearly impossible. In my opinion, there will never ever be a clean rave acid scene party.
Another town, another legal rave licensed by the local authority. The effects of taking E are erratic. Few people die suddenly, but many more are slowly poisoned. In the end, dying from E is like dying from sunstroke from the inside.
By the time they get to hospital, they usually have a very high body temperature, between 40 and 43 degrees, which is, in old units, that's between about 104 and 110 degrees. And that means that people are very close to death from heat stroke when they have a temperature like that.
This time, the teenager has hidden the illegal E-tablet in his shoe and is therefore handed over to the police. Ironically, that could be a lucky escape. New evidence from the National Poisons Unit points to E causing long-term brain and liver damage.
It's not until the tap on the door saying that my little boy or girl's been arrested in possession of certain drugs that the reality is driven home. Even then they don't believe it until they actually see someone down in the custody block.
Or they're dead.
Or they're dead, yeah.
Poison, ecstasy is poison, don't take it. Don't even try a little weeny bit of one taking on.